Okay, so I had a question from one of the viewers, and they're asking how I go about being disciplined and sticking to a strategy, and all the common things with in terms of emotions and things like that. And to be honest, there's no sort of straightforward answer. It's a culmination of different factors. The first thing I would say is that you've got to understand that when you take a trade on a trade by trade basis, that one independent event, that one trade setup, right? So let's just say, for whatever reason, I'm going to go short in here, right? And I think that's a manipulation, and that's my entry, right? Now, I'll place my stop above here, and the trade maybe goes my way a little bit, and then it actually starts to go against me. This is where all the problems start. So it's at this moment where you might consider taking another sell, right? So you take another sell, and that's not really part of your trading plan. You've just done that on impulse to try and get a better price, hoping it'll come down, but it kind of doesn't come down, and it's going up, and it's going towards your stop. Now you've got two positions on, and you're in a position pardon the pun, you're now in a position where you're over leveraged, but you're potentially going to get into a lot more trouble, because as it starts to near your stop loss, you cancel that stop loss, and now the trade goes against you, right? And that's purely because you're not sticking to your rules, and recognizing more so recognizing that the outcome of one trade is so insignificant. It's such a small thing in the grand scheme of things that you've got to understand what trading is in its essence. It's just about taking a trade, and this is your setup, right? This is your trade, and no matter what happens, no matter how it turns out, whether it's win, lose, or you draw, right? Win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. You move forward to that next statistically independent event, and you do it again, and you try and take another good trade, and whatever happens, you get stopped out, you move forward, and you keep moving forward. This is the problem with the vast majority of traders. They are living and dying by one single trade outcome, which is just a nonsense. It's not even a thing. It's not. If you think of like all the different people participating in the markets, not all of them are doing the same thing, right? There are people in there that are gambling versus people in there who are trading. They're not the same thing. People who trade don't care about the outcome of the trade and move on and take the next trade, and they kind of become kind of cold to what happens with the outcome of the trade. They're not thinking about cancelling stops as price comes against them. They're accepting that that's just a one event, that an edge that they took, their edge in the market that they took a good trade as far as they were concerned, and it's just not going to make money. Just because it doesn't make money is not a reflection on you as an individual, necessarily. It's just was never going to make money. And the important thing to note about trading is you don't need it to make you money on every time you take a trade in order to make money ultimately. But people just struggle so much getting past this singular trading idea, because they're not actually thinking in terms of what trading is. Its core essence. It's just about your execution of the said edge, whatever it might be. For me, it's market manipulations. For someone else, it might be something else. But it's about how well you execute on that process, and then move on to the next trade. And really, professionals develop a mindset that allows them to not care about the outcome of any singular trade. They understand that the law of large numbers dictates that they need to take a bigger batch, a bigger sample size of trades before they can know whether or not they're anywhere near profitable. So if I say to you, I need you to take 100 trades to the best of your ability, whatever the outcome, doesn't matter, and you're going to take 100 trades to the best of your ability before I'm going to let you stop trading. Let's have a look at what that represents in the end. Right? How many of you have actually taken 100 trades like that before? What about 25 trades? Have you done 25 trades? Executed to near perfect as you could, and just stuck with taking 25 trades, moving forward, the same strategy? What about 10? Right? This is the problem. People are not doing even this before they're chucking in the towel and saying something's not right and I'm going to go get another trading strategy, another system. And by the way, that's presupposing someone's actually moving forward. What most people do is this, and this is where the blown account then comes. It's not trading, guys. That's not trading. You've got to understand what you're doing, if this is you, is you're gambling. It's not trading. And it's a really bad gamble too, because of how bad things can unravel once you start cancelling stops and adding to losers and things like that. Just recently I heard the worst story in my entire career of a retail trader's losses, and just put it this way, combined it was over $1.2 million in losses. So between two people. So that is just outrageous and so sad that happens, but it does happen, and it happens because people are participating in the markets, but they're not trading, they're gambling, and unfortunately that's the downside for so many, the downfall for so many traders. So what you need to understand is the law of large numbers. Just think of it like this, even draw this out and have this on your charts. I'll have it on your wall rather. 100 trades, and you're going to get to your expected value or close to it of your said currency, of your said strategy. So let's say you have a win rate of 50%, which is very good if you're winning more than you're losing. So you're going to be profitable providing you get to your 100 trades. The problem is most people are the wrong side of say 20 trades or 10 trades, right? And they get results they don't particularly like in here, and they don't move towards that greater sample size, so they just quit, and then they just find themselves back in the wrong side of the law of large numbers, because this is where the lumpy results will be. But this is where everyone stays, right? The system hop because of this. So you need to realize that you can't know whether or not you're profitable until you've really, it's like more like 1,000 trades of data you want. But I'm struggling to get people to do 10 trades. So 100 trades is a really decent amount to just test in a live market environment and see where you're at. So long as you're gaining more on the upside than you do when you don't make money, over 100 trades you'll be surprised at the results. Now I'm not saying take 100 trades in 2 seconds flat, just like trade 100 trades in a week. I'm saying try and take a good trade, 1 a day, 2 a day maybe max, 1 a day preferably. You don't want to overtrade, and yes, that's going to take you 3 months of trading. So what? 3 months is absolutely nothing. That's the other thing about trading. People come to it and don't expect it to be hard work. Right? There are obviously massive shortcuts to be had when you're learning from people, but it's still a ton of hard work. And I give the example, if someone had gone to the library and read a book on heart surgery over the weekend versus someone who's been a specialist at that craft and educated and real world experience and done it a zillion times, a specialist with 30 years experience, who do you want doing your heart surgery, right? It's a no-brainer. And in any other walk of life, be it in sports, be it in business, be it in any other walk of life, think of anything. If anyone's any good at anything, did they manage to achieve that level of expertise overnight? Right? It just doesn't follow. But for some reason in trading, people think, it's something instant that I can just get involved in and be super good at. There's loads of nuance, there's loads of experience that you need to develop yourself over time, and that only comes through experience. Now, you do get a lot of that from people helping and who's been through that, but ultimately there's no substitute for your own experience. So realize you've got work ahead of you, but realize that there are fundamental truisms that you need to get your head around, otherwise you've got no chance. You literally may as well go and do something else, because if you don't get this concept of what trading actually is, allowing the numbers to unfold over bigger sample sizes and not being bothered and learning to develop your skill set to reduce the impact of this, to hopefully being in a position where it really doesn't bother you whether you make money, lose or draw. And the win lose is, I hate those terms. It's just, did you take a good trade? I measure myself on how well I performed relative to my execution on my strategy. Like, that's what I care about. I'm pissed off if I don't perform well relative to the strategy. Even if the trade made money, my performance was lacking. I'm pissed off about that. I'm not bothered about the outcome. I'm not bothered about the financial gain in that scenario. I'm upset that I haven't performed well. So I only care about my own performance. I don't care about the outcomes, because if I care about the outcomes, forget your performance, because you're just going to have a total disaster and you're going to get stuck in one of these scenarios and not be able to move forward. And ultimately, we know what happens from there can lead to complete disaster, as I mentioned earlier. Some truly horrible stories. So here's some of the things I would do. First of all, measure yourself over bigger sample sizes. So you've got to settle on a strategy first and foremost. So I'll get to that in a second. You've got to settle on a strategy. And you've got to just commit to that strategy and recognize that the edge for that said strategy is not everywhere you look, right? My edge for trading stop hunts is not in here. It's over here. Now, is this happening every 5 minutes? No. So you got to be patient and you've got to wait for your said edge to set up. And you just got to accept that that's what you're supposed to do. You look at a chart, you analyze it. If your setup's not there, you go and have a look at another chart, or you do nothing in terms of trading activity. Now, some people might not be able to do that. Some people might suffer. That might bore them to death. Well, maybe you got to go and do something else, or maybe you got to deal with the boredom in a different way. How about learning and improving in that period where you're not taking trades, right? You just don't have to sit on your ass and do nothing. You can improve. So let's say that you've settled on a strategy, right, and something that resonates with you and it makes sense, right? Great. You get to that point. Then you're looking at your trades in a bigger sample size. So you want to look at your trades, not over 5 trades, not how you do over 10 trades. If anyone says you've got a 60% win rate, so that means you win 6, it trades in 10, and you lose 4, right? You don't make money on 4. You should run away from those people at speed, right? Because they're full of shit. Because it's not how it works. It's not over 10 trades that you're going to know whether or not you're 60% profitable or not, right? You're only going to know that once you've taken 100, 200, 300 trades. That's how you know, and you don't know when those 60% winners are going to come. None of us do. So whenever I hear someone saying, oh, you've got a 60% win rate or 50% win rate, you win 5 or 6 trades out of 10 trades, that's utter bollocks. You could lose all 10 and still have a 60% win rate. And that's what I'm saying. This is how you've got to think about, set your stall out and actually become a trader, and not fall for the short-termism, which is utter nonsense. And it is in that short term, as I said, where you're going to get those lumpy, painful, unpalatable results that you think aren't working. You think the strategy therefore isn't working. Then you become timid and confused, and maybe then you system hop because you're not confident, and then you just go round and round and round, right? I'm telling you, you need to test it over 100 trades as a minimum, right? And that might take you a little while to do, but that's what you got to do, okay? And once you in doing that, I want you to lower your risk to near zero, right? 0.1% risk. And you might say, Mark, that's not 1%, that's 0.1%, 0.2%. Now, you might say, I don't have enough money, in which case you're going to have to use the least amount that your account can handle. So maybe you have to use 1% because you haven't got a big account. But if your account can swallow it, and no matter what, always take the least amount of risk that you can. But go down to 0.1% on a trade. And you might go, well, 0.1%, I'm not going to make any money. I don't care about that thinking. It's terrible thinking. You shouldn't think that way. You should think that's going to reduce my psychology, the negative, and the level, the volume of the psychology, so that I can deal with not cancelling my stop loss when the trade goes against me, right? I can swallow it, I can cope with that. And what that allows you to do is that allows you to focus all your attention on process, and then when you're in a trade, so the cut and thrust of a trade, right? So the trade goes your way and you're making money, but then as it starts coming back, each one of these points, a pressure point where you're going to have an emotional response. Now, if you're taking a lot of risk, this is where you ultimately kill your process and cancel stops and average in and things like that, because you've got too much. It's weighing too heavily on your psychology. Reduce the risk to near zero and allow you to learn and develop. And when you have these feelings as you're going through the trade, you just need to tell yourself new information and make sure you don't bastardize the setup, i.e. if it comes against you, you don't move your stop, you swallow the stop, and the outcome is whatever it is, and then you move on to that next trade. It gives you the room to do that. The other thing as well is what I'll say, it's really a strategy for risk that I've banged on about for many years. It was vitally important in my own trading, is to actually think that you could lose 50% of your trades in 100 trades you take in a row. Right now, that's super extreme. It's so far out there in the bell curve. Don't panic, because it's probably never going to happen, and that's the point. But what that does is it allows you this framework in order to speculate safely. Because when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 losing trades in a row, where most people quit and system hop and blame everybody else but themselves, they won't move forward, whereas you will, because you've got that framework. You're taking low risk, and you know you've got your eye on the prize of that 100 trades, and you can learn the mindset in here, right? You can learn that in a safe way, and just keep developing that never really stops, that process, I have to tell you. But what you do is, when you get better and better and better at repeating all this stuff, you start to trust yourself, and the volume of this stuff turns down and continues to turn down if you continue to develop how you think about this stuff. So when you get that knot in your stomach and it's going against you, right, tell yourself something new. Who cares? It's one trade in 100. It's no big deal. I've done a really good trade. Just because it's going against me, it's not my fault, right? I took a good trade. End of. I'm going to move on. I'm going to hold to my stop. I don't give a shit about what it's doing, right? That's the type of mindset that a winner ultimately develops. You're not born with it, and then you're moving on to that next trade, and then whatever happens, you're moving on to that next trade, and then maybe you have 3, 4, 5 losers in a row, but you don't stop, you keep going. I had a student who I think he had 20, did he have 30 losses in a row? I think he had 30 losses in a row. He's insanely profitable as a trader, but he suffered a 30 trade drawdown in a row, and had the fortitude and the mental capability to actually keep fighting and keep sticking to his process, and he's gone on to be hugely successful in his trading. That's what you've got to be capable of doing, and unless you get to 100 trades, you should not be put off or deterred by any type of drawdown per se. You just need to bite down on the gum shield and keep going. Now, here's the other thing. Maybe you get to 100 trades and maybe the strategy hasn't made money, but you'll know if it's close, right? Maybe you've got maybe you've lost 60% of your trades and you've won 40, and the risk reward wasn't as good as it could be, so you're kind of losing a bit. But that can be, you can develop that, you can adjust your performance and get better and try and turn that around. Or indeed, it might be the fact that the strategy isn't working, and it's at that point then you reevaluate, and maybe then you consider another strategy, but only once you've got a good sample size under your belt. And here's the thing: what will the losses be in your account if you're losing 0.1 every time you lose? Right, and bear in mind you're losing 0.1, and your account balance every time you lose is dropping. So it's really very small amount of real money that you would actually lose in that scenario. So again, not the end of the world. It's certainly not a blown account scenario like it is if you don't understand this stuff, and if you don't consider this to be the reality of trading. Right, if you're undisciplined, if you're too emotional, you need to think about trading like this, because if you don't think of it like this, if you don't do what I've explained here, you're not going to become a trader. You're going to gamble, and ultimately, we know what we've described where that ends for the vast majority. So this is it's probably one of the most important videos in trading you could probably come across. It's the gems of wisdom that I wish someone had told me on day one. And if that's you on the other end of this video watching this, then I hope you understand the importance of it, because this is the foundation for you to become a trader. And yeah, imagine that doesn't make you money after you've gone through that. But guess what? You're a trader, and yes, you didn't make money, but what you did do is you took 100 quality trades for where you are in your own development, because we're all different. But if you can nail 100 good trades, and it's not going to be perfect, you're going to make mistakes, but you're just going to strive for perfection, for the level of experience you've got, then congratulations, you're in the game. All you need to do now is find a strategy that actually works. And indeed, make sure that you're considering market state as well, because it might be you're trying to trade a trading strategy in a sideways environment, or vice versa. So do also consider whether or not you're applying the right strategy for the right market environment. So I hope that's going to be hugely helpful for you guys. I hope that answers the question of the gentleman who was struggling with discipline. I don't believe it's a discipline issue. I believe it's just a fact that people don't have the framework to speculate safely. That's what I think. I think because what I've seen over the years is when people grasp this concept that I've just described to you now, their discipline goes through the roof. So was it a discipline issue? Probably not, right? And I'm not saying people don't suffer with lack of discipline, right? If you look everywhere around, everyone's got vices that they struggle with. But I don't think it's particularly a discipline issue in trading. I think it's the fact that people struggle to trust and settle on a strategy. Then it's that they're not trading it long enough, and they're taking too much risk, and they're gambling. They're not even trading. So if you use this system, what I've just described, you can then you should find it pretty easy then to understand what you need to do, and importantly where you need to develop and do some more work, because it's going to scream at you where you need work. Do you need more work on your psychology, right? Things like that, and strategy. So I hope that helps, guys. The link's in the description below if you like to learn more stuff like this. Click on the website, check it out, and hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. Take care, all the best.